mule, it is not. He's got the red, white, blue, brown high on the farm. Simplified tattoo, his left thumb, spit a little more in his full tag, and the there it says USA. All 5 million that he can't fix. With WD-40 and a Craftsman wrench, he ain't pressing goods. He's just made in America. Made in America, are you made in America? Are you ready to make a mockery of the mainstream media and the Twitter trolls? I am, I tell you. I am pumped up. We're going to hear from a lot of great people today, and there's so many issues on the ballot important to all of us. We have lawlessness versus law and order. We have defund the police versus supporting our boys and girls in blue and supporting our first responders and our law enforcement. And I tell you, we are blessed in this state to have an Attorney General who is a man of law and order, who is a man who believes in the rule of law and rejects any notion of defunding the police. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage your Attorney General, Eric Schmidt.
I know, man. Good. Not bad.
How we doing? Are you guys ready for a clean sweep? In 3 days. How about 4 more years of Donald Trump? I gotta tell you, everywhere we have been, the enthusiasm is off the charts. You look at the president's rallies, there are a ton of people there. You look at Joe Biden's rallies, there's nobody there. We've been traveling on the road. I've seen more signs for firewood than I have for Joe Biden.
There's truth to that.
Listen, we all know what's at stake here, and as conservatives, as Republicans, we believe in defending something that's important, this American idea. Our founders believed that. That's why they had this belief that was very revolutionary, that fought a war over, that all of us are born with certain rights, and that government's just our project to protect those rights. The right to worship as you please. The right to defend yourself with the Second Amendment. Right? And so, also, and I know someone, how many veterans are here? Would you please raise your hands? Thank you for your service. I think about my grandfather who went off to World War II from Tipton, Missouri. He defended those ideas, saved the world, freed a continent. And all of us, this election is about defending those ideas. And as your Attorney General, my job is to defend the rule of law, to protect all of you, for law and order in this country. And let me tell you, so when you see under the First Amendment, when people decide they want to pray, I'll give you one example. There were some high school kids in the western part of this state that after a football game, they wanted to voluntarily pray. And so they prayed together. And a leftist radical organization called the Freedom From Religion Foundation said, we're going to sue you if you keep doing that. And we said, you know what? If you get sued for that, we will defend you. The Attorney General's office will defend you. We'll protect your right to pray. And just across the river over there, a few months ago, there was a couple defending their lives and their property. Right? And you have a radical prosecutor now threatening to throw them in jail for protecting themselves and their God-given right to defend themselves. And as Attorney General, we said, you know what, we're entering that case. We're going to get that case dismissed, not on my watch. And when it comes to violent crime, ladies and gentlemen, everyone here knows, everybody has a right to be safe in their communities. I don't care what your zip code is. And that's why we support law enforcement. Am I right? They do that dangerous work to protect us. And that's my pledge to you as your Attorney General. We're going to continue to do that. But let me tell you something. We saw earlier this week just how important this election is. In 2016, I was campaigning, and I remember Roy Blunt saying, the next president of the United States is going to pick for sure one, maybe probably two, and maybe 3 Supreme Court justices. And how about those sweet words, Justice Amy Coney Barrett? What a great pick. Well, we know there's more picks on the line. I'll tell you one other thing. This governor, Mike Parson, I have known for a very long time. We've served together. We've had early mornings and late nights and the good times and the bad times. And he's a leader, a humble leader. Somebody who believes in the state, will always fight for the state. Let me tell you something, the next 4 years, the next governor is going to pick at least 3 Missouri Supreme Court judges. And so that's another reason why it's important to give Mike Parson 4 more years. Ladies and gentlemen, we know what's on the line. As your AG, I promise you this. I'll always fight for law and order. I'll always fight for the rule of law. I will always fight for you. Thank you. God bless you. God bless the great state of Missouri. And God bless the United States of America.
Also on the ballot, we have capitalism versus socialism. You know, we are so lucky to have a state treasurer who understands when they start talking about government money, they're talking about your money. When they start talking about giving free stuff, that means you and I are going to have to pay for it. State Treasurer Scott Fitzpatrick is the great steward of our resources and of our dollars. Put your hands together and welcome him to the stage.
And it's a great day.
Day coming up on Tuesday. I know that everybody here is going to go vote, but you know the national media would try to convince us that this election has been over for a long time. They're trying to convince us that Joe Biden is going to elect the president. We know that's not right, but they're saying that because they want people to not go vote. They want to convince people to support Donald Trump not to show up at the ballot. We're not going to let that happen. I know everybody here is going to go vote. We have got to make sure that everybody we know is like-minded shows up in the polls between now and next Tuesday to cast their vote to re-elect Donald Trump President of the United States. Governor Parson gets re-elected to the governor's office and all the way down to statewide ballot. And, you know, let me tell you something about, we've got a really tight congressional race here in Missouri. It's one of the most watched congressional races in House of Representatives, back before I was president. And she's in the state Senate now. I'm just here to tell you, she's the most liberal person I work with in Jefferson City. She's the most liberal member of the state Senate. And that does not reflect the values of the people of the 2nd Congressional District. So we've got to do everything we can to also send Ann Wagner back to Washington, D.C. We're already going to have a new member of the squad over in the 1st District. And I honestly think that if we don't send Ann back to D.C., we could have another member from Missouri as part of the squad up in D.C., and we do not want that. You know, I'm a small business guy. That's why I got into politics. I was frustrated as a taxpayer dealing with government, and I've always felt like the government works for you, not the other way around. But oftentimes that's not how that dynamic works. So oftentimes it feels like it's the other way around. We can't let that happen. And as a business owner, I can tell you that through everything that's happened over the last 8 months, I've been thankful every day that Governor Parson has been at the helm of the state government and that he did not shut down our economy. That decision alone, he's under tremendous pressure to do that. And that decision alone, I cannot begin to tell you how many thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs that decision has saved. Because it's been the difference, literally. It's been difficult for businesses, obviously. But the difference between a government-mandated shutdown and letting them fight to survive has been the difference between thousands of businesses in this state closing their doors forever versus thousands of businesses in the state staying open. And that's important because when you look across the country, the states that have been led by liberals, frankly, look at what's happening in New York City. Look what's happening in the state of New York. Look what's happening in Michigan, in Illinois, and California. You know, we're we're on a tear economically. We're on a comeback. We had 33% GDP growth in the last quarter. That's being driven by the states that are led by conservatives, because it's not happening in New York and California. We're doing that with New York and California tied behind our back. And so we've got to continue this streak. I'm telling you, you've got a choice in the governor's office between somebody who's supporting people who want to defund the police versus somebody who spent their career in law enforcement in the United States Army. Nicole Galloway is supporting somebody who wants to defund the military. Governor Parson served in the military. So we're not going to let that happen. And I can tell you, as long as I'm state treasurer, I'm going to continue signing those checks going out to our law enforcement officials. We're going to continue to support our military. And we're going to continue to work together on behalf of the people of this state to make sure that it's our values in Missouri that's what's being advanced. We cannot do that if we don't all show up to vote. I've had the honor of serving alongside Governor Parson, Lieutenant Governor Kehoe, Secretary of State Ashcroft, and Attorney General Schmidt for the last 2 years. I came into office in a different way than most, that many people did. I was appointed by Governor Parson to be the state treasurer a couple of years ago. That happened because there was a guy named Josh Hawley who ran against a gal named Claire McCaskill. Josh Hawley retired Claire McCaskill. And it's been the honor of a lifetime to have that opportunity to serve alongside the governor. And I've gotten to watch and work with the governor. And I can tell you that from firsthand knowledge, there's nobody in the state of Missouri who's worked harder over the last 8 months than Governor Parson. He's been there 7 days a week. He's had 12, 14, 16-hour days every single day leading the state through this pandemic. And you know, as the treasurer, my job is to watch the money. And so one thing I'll tell you, and I'll wrap this up, I got to the legislature when Jay Nixon was the governor. We were always struggling financially. And even in the middle of this pandemic right now, we are in better financial condition right now than we ever were when Jay Nixon was the governor of the state of Missouri. You give the checkbook to the state back to the Democrats, they will mess it up. It won't take them very long. They've done it before, and they'll do it again. So we've got to do our part. We've got to show up and vote next Tuesday. God bless you guys. Thank you very much.
All right. Also on the ballot is the issue of ballot integrity. Reducing and eliminating voter fraud. That's what Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft has done. Let me tell you what else he's done. He's made clear to out-of-state big money special interests that our elections and our Constitution are not for sale. Please welcome Jay Ashcroft.
Flying proudly in the breeze, that's why we're here. You know, it's really not about me, it's not about our wonderful governor, it's about that flag and what it represents. It's about one side that thinks the flag ought to fly proudly, that's us in case you didn't know, and the other side that thinks you ought to throw it on the ground and burn it or raise some sort of Iranian flag. It's about this republic. Not a bunch of kings and queens and monarchy or dictatorship, but we the people making our own decisions. It's about citizens standing up to make their own decisions for their family. It's about people being able to build companies like this, because this isn't what the government builds. It's about government up. It's about good jobs versus government checks. It's about opportunity versus depravity. It's about whether or not future generations will know the promise of America. You know, America was like no other country when it was formed. A group of individuals overthrew the ruling monarch, the superpower of the world at the time. And every other time in history, the people that overthrew put themselves in charge. But in America, they didn't do that. They said, we're going to put the people in charge. And because of that, 13 inconsequential colonies became the lone superpower in the world, because freedom unleashed the potential of a country and a nation. And it's miraculous. And we have a great history, but today isn't about our history. Although we need to know our history, as opposed to the other side that wants to tear down our history. But this is about our future. This is about future generations. It's not just about whether or not we can turn on CNN one Tuesday night and watch the tears. The tears start to come down and the heads explode as the deplorable say no more. We've got 3 days. We've got 3 days not only for 4 more years, but for future generations. And 20 years from now, are your children and mine going to look at us and say, what happened? Why did you let us down? Because look, I'm an elected official. I like to take credit for everything. But we are all here because of those that came before us. Because they did the hard work of citizenship. Because they did not let the dream die. Every generation has had to make that decision. And this is our time. If you can't hear the sound, it is our time. And our children will look back whether or not we answered the call. Whether or not this beacon of liberty, this lone superpower for freedom will survive is based on what you do in the next 3 days. And I don't know about you, but as for me and my house, we will stand for future generations. We will not shirk the call. We will stand for what is right over what is easy. We will stand for truth over a lie. We will stand for what made this country great. Thank you for what you do. Do not give up. It's going to be glorious.
Also on the ballot is the American dream. You know, where you can be anything that you want to be. The harder you work, the luckier you get. And our Lieutenant Governor is a picture of that. Somebody who was the youngest of 6 kids raised by a single mom. Someone who started washing cars at the age of 15 and kept working and kept working. And pretty soon, 15 years later, he became the youngest owner of a Ford dealership in the United States of America. He later became the first generation family farmer. Your friend, my friend, welcome Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe.
Thank you. Hello, St. Charles. Are we ready to go on Tuesday? Now, this is not official from the Secretary of State, but if you go Democrat, tell them the election's Wednesday. That's our secret strategy. Hey, it is great to be here on a beautiful day. The folks at Arrowhead have been such supporters of conservative causes. When our house needed a new roof this year, I said I want the shingles made in Joplin, Missouri, and I want them to come from Arrowhead and St. Charles. But listen, we're seeing great crowds as we travel this state, not just on the bus tour. All of your statewide that you heard from today and the governor, we travel the state all the time because the government, you don't have to come to Jefferson City. We can come to you and find out where real people live. And we very much enjoy doing that. One of the things that we do is we visit manufacturers all over the state through our Buy Missouri program, which then Lieutenant Governor Mike Parson started. Every one of those people, I walk into their business, they say, thank the governor and all of the statewide people for keeping our businesses open so our families could provide for work. So thank you, Governor Parson. Missouri's economy now, just this last week, we're 6th best in the United States in unemployment. We'll kick the other one's rear, but that's good. We're moving in the right direction, and we're going to continue to go there. Now, one of the things I just want to touch on before you hear from your next speaker is that as conservatives, our foundational bedrock piece of who we are is to speak for the folks that can't quite speak yet, the unborn that still don't have a voice. And you know, there's differences in this election, and I tell everybody, if you want to highlight one difference, please highlight this difference. Your Senators Onder and Eigel, along with your state representatives last year, passed the heartbeat bill, probably one of the best bills in the United States. I was honored to preside for the Senate of that bill. Governor Parson, as you know, signed that bill. And he'll tell
tell you more about some good statistics in a minute. We're moving in the right direction. But the contrary is the governor's opponent, Miss Galloway. She, thank you for the news. Was it me or her? She, on the other hand, hangs around the liberal elite. You know, she agrees with the governor of Virginia who once said, the woman should have the baby and then we'll make a decision. That sounds like murder to me. Is it murder? Yeah. It is murder. So, Ms. Galloway gets together with her liberal elite and has these Zoom fundraisers. And a few months ago, she had one on a Sunday morning at 11 o'clock in the morning. And if you join, you got a free cocktail. Now, I don't know where many of you were, or normally are on a Sunday morning. But I was with the governor and the first lady at Lee's Summit. I know where he and the First Lady were this last Sunday. I know my daughter Carol, who's traveled with us, and Mike Deering with the Capitalist Association. I know where we were on Sunday morning, 11 o'clock. We were on our knees, and it wasn't because the Pledge of Allegiance was being said, or the Star Spangled Banner. It was because we were thanking the good Lord for the life and the opportunities we have in the state. And if you have any difference, you can tell your friends and neighbors. That is the foundational difference of what this election is about. Joe Biden's America and Nicole Galloway's Missouri is not our America and Missouri. If you want to have a glimpse of what that looks like, just go back 9 weeks when a lady in Dallas, Texas, who wanted to provide for her family and let her employees come back to work as a hairdresser was arrested and thrown in jail. But on that same newspaper front page, you saw an article where there was a woman in Chicago, Illinois, who threw a rock through a window, stole a bunch of Nike tennis shoes, and nobody touched her. That's not Missouri. And we can't let that happen because that's real. You don't have to imagine what their future looks like. You've seen it. And it's up to you. You're in the choir. I need you to sing. We need to make sure people know on November 3rd what those values are and how Missouri is much different. And trust me, if we do that, we're going to have a great day. I keep telling Secretary Ashcroft, as you saw his voice is going out, I said, Jay, the only thing we need you to do on November 3rd is count. Right? And a couple of us said it's a real red district counting. No, we didn't say that. But I can't tell you, born and raised in St. Louis, I've lived in Jefferson City half my life. My roots up in this area have been fantastic. The people in this audience have many have supported my wife and our family and I. We're small business owners who got into politics, kind of almost by mistake, and we're sure happy to be able to serve your entire state. And I can't tell you how grateful and humble I am that Governor Parson asked me to go on this mission with him to move Missouri forward. He's been a fantastic friend. He's your governor. I'm thankful he's my governor. Thank you for being here today. God bless each and every one of you. Let's hear it for Mike Deering, the Cattlemen's Association.
Anybody like beef? Amen. I tell you, so you're going to hear from a member of Congress here that is a fighter for Missouri values. He's not from around here. He's one of those hillbillies down in southeast Missouri. But I'll tell you, when it comes to fighting for freedom, fighting for liberty, and fighting for American values, Congressman Jason Smith is right there with him, ladies and gentlemen. Put your hands together.
Thanks, Mike. This looks like the crowd that elected Donald Trump as the 45th President of the United States, right? Is this the crowd that's going to re-elect Donald J. Trump? Is this the crowd that's going to vote red on Tuesday? When you vote red, that means removing every Democrat, right? defunding the police, abolishing ICE. That is the wrong way for Missouri. That is what Nicole Galloway stands for. Let me tell you what Mike Parson stands for. He was a sheriff. He doesn't want to defund the police like Nicole Galloway. He is law enforcement. He believes in security. He believes in protecting your neighborhood. He was a man who served his country, so he definitely doesn't believe in defunding the Pentagon. He's a man who had his own small business. He knows what it is to sign the front of a paycheck, not just the back. Folks, this election is about socialism versus freedom. Plain and simple. It's not about the next 2 or 4
Ladies and
years.
gentlemen, we are live.
It's about the next 50.
Keep Missouri
You gotta
Red
make sure you
rally.
talk
We hope
to
you guys
your
are
friends
enjoying
and
our live
neighbors.
stream here.
Make sure that they
Governor
understand
Parson
the
will be
importance
on
of this
stage
election.
here in just a minute.
Up here in St. Charles County,
And
we
we
need
are
to turn out the margins. We need to
getting
make
everything
sure
set here for you
that
guys
we
to
run up the
enjoy
scoreboard. When
this
I
live
leave this
stream.
place, I'm going straight to Pennsylvania to campaign with the president's son to make sure that Donald J. Trump wins Pennsylvania. I need to make sure you
I
all
hope you're enjoying this live stream.
have
We're trying to bring this to
every
this
down the ballot
over.
vote red.
There's another big rally going to be up here.
Every Democrat,
Voting
right?
to come. We
Thank
hope
you
you
all.
guys join us on Tuesday for our live stream. Continue to support making Missouri, keeping Missouri red. Stay tuned. We're still here. Governor
You know, I'm going to go out
Parson.
on a limb a little
Just a few
bit
minutes.
here,
Look for Governor
but
Parson.
I think we get so jazzed up and so engaged in the presidential elections, the statewide elections, our local elections, and that's fantastic because they're critically important. But sometimes we kind of gloss over who we send to Washington, D.C., or we don't get as engaged in those races sometimes. At least I don't. I'm guilty as anybody. But I'll tell you it's critically important. I mean, we believe that Donald J. Trump is going to be elected, and he's going to need people in Congress who will stand with him and fight for American values and principles. Let's say, heaven forbid, that he doesn't. Let's say, heaven forbid, Joe Biden is your next president. We need members of Congress who will stand against the socialist agenda. And ladies and gentlemen, you've got one right here, and that's Ann Wagner. Put your hands together for Congresswoman Ann Wagner.
There we are. Oh, I love you, St. Charles.
Yes.
I've only got a little sliver of y'all, but I need every single one of you to turn out. This county is where Republican elections are won, all right? Won. It's about all of you. We are a united front. We are so happy to have our governor here leading the charge, along with the rest of the statewide elected officials, and you're going to pull across the finish line. We're leaving it all on the field, folks. I've got one of my staffers here. Seth, there you are. He's the man with the whiteboard. We are going walking after this, all right? If you want to go walk and knock doors, if you want to talk to your neighbors and friends, if you want to do the real retail politics that gets it done, you go see Seth, and he'll sign you up, get you some literature, and you can get out there and get her done. So, this is an election where the choice is clear. This is either about a far lurch left to the extreme center of socialism, or it's about on. I see the pro-life signs here, pro-woman, pro-Parson. I see you, Connie Eller. I love you. And let me tell you what. My opponent believes in abortion on demand through the 3rd trimester. She supports partial birth abortion. She wouldn't even vote for the Born Alive bill that I sponsor in Congress. These are the things that matter. These are the values that matter. These are what matter to the 2nd District. I'm going to fight and defend them each and every day, along with each and every one of you. I can't thank you enough for all that you're going to do. I want to mention somebody that's going to be introduced here in a second. She's a good friend. She's a warrior, a conservative warrior who has defended this president through thick and thin on the front line every single day. She's the one you're here to see. I'm not introducing her, but she is a good friend of our family. Sarah, you know, I think Ray and I used to take you and your daddy to Cardinal games back when you were a little girl, all right? Now she's a mama with girls of her own, so in a big family. But we're so grateful to you, Sarah. You've been a friend, a conservative warrior. We're glad that you're here to support this governor and our entire team, and we can't wait to hear from you. All right. Are you ready? Let's get out and get her done. Thank you very, very much. Love y'all.
Do we happen to have any family farmers or ranchers out here? I mean, do we have anybody in agriculture? Let me tell you that if agriculture is important to you, I can tell you, because I worked with the Congresswoman's opponent many, many years. Write this down, she is poison in the well to family farmers and ranchers. That is not who you want in Washington, D.C. You know, President Donald J. Trump, he supports Governor Mike Parson. He endorsed Governor Mike Parson. And we have a governor who stands with our president and who supports our president. He's fighting in battleground states as we speak, but he sent a surrogate. He sent us Lord Trump. Turn your attention to the screen.
Hey Missouri, I'm Laura Trump. This November is the most important and most consequential election of our lifetime. My father-in-law has been working hard to make Missouri and America great again. You've got some great leaders in the state of Missouri, like Governor Mike Parson, who's been working alongside our president to protect law and order, jobs, and life in your state. It's going to take all of us working hard to make sure we keep the socialist agenda out of Missouri and out of America. That is exactly why we need to make sure that you get out and vote to keep Missouri red, keep America red, and vote for conservatives all the way down the ticket, and at the very top, President Donald Trump.
You know, most kids at 10 years old, they're playing outside or they're playing video games or doing what kids do. Not this next speaker. At 10 years old, she was stuffing envelopes. She was knocking doors. She was making phone calls. She was putting up yard signs. She was campaigning. You see, her dad was running for the U.S. Senate at the time, and they didn't have a big campaign staff or a lot of money, so the family became the campaign staff. And you know, for most 10-year-olds, you would think that would be child abuse. That would be torture, but not for your next speaker. She loved it. She loved the art of campaigning. She loved public service. She could be found behind the tube watching the polling data coming in. Just loved the pundits going back and forth. She was also the only daughter, had 2 brothers. That's probably why her dad says she's tough. She's fearless, and she doesn't know how to back down. And we got to see a little bit of that when she was the press secretary for Donald J. Trump. Let me ask you this. Did you enjoy a good Sarah Huckabee-Sanders liberal media smackdown? Did you like that? Hell yes, we did. And now, she's no longer speaking for the president. Now she's speaking for herself. And she is still fighting for us. You need to read her book. You need to read that book and hear that story, because she's beyond tough. She's fighting for your liberties, American values, your freedom. Get loud, get proud for Sarah Huckabee-Sanders.
Well, we may have to bring that out some more. Thank you so much for coming out this morning. Thank you, Mike. I've already told him as soon as he gets done helping get this great slate of candidates elected in Missouri, we're going to have to bring him down to Arkansas, because I'm not sure there's a better hype man than that. So thank you so much for being here. It is such an honor to be with so many freedom-loving people in this state. Over the last couple of years, I've had the great opportunity to get to know Mike Parson. What an incredible governor you have. The thing I like about this governor is he's not trying to get out there and make a name for himself, but he's trying to make Missouri better. He's trying to make this country better, and he's willing to do it and fight every single day. He didn't need this job, but this job most definitely needed him. As Mike mentioned, I was the former White House press secretary to President Trump. And that was a job I absolutely loved. Even on the most difficult days, I was proud to work alongside the president. I was only the third woman to serve in that position, and the very first mom to ever be White House press secretary. I used to often joke that being White House press secretary, people always ask me, how did you prepare to have that job? People thought it was because I had a lifetime in politics. I said, no, it's because I'm a mom. So it's real simple. When I went into the White House, my youngest was 1.5. I have 3 kids. They're 8, 7, and 5. Let that sink in for a minute. 8, 7, and 5. So it's chaos at our house at all times. And I told them it was real simple. Being a mom to preschool-age children, I said no a lot. I answered the same question over and over again, and I needed an extreme amount of patience in order to do my day job, much less be the White House press secretary. One of the things I learned growing up in Arkansas and growing up with a father that was in public service was that being engaged in the process made a difference. Getting to see that firsthand as a kid made a big impact on my life. My dad took us with him everywhere. Mike said it was child abuse. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I got to see my state. I got to meet people from all walks of life, and I got to do it with my dad. There's not much better than that. And I wanted my kids to have that same experience. So when I went and took the job at the White House, we wanted our kids to experience that, to understand why we were serving, why we were making that sacrifice as a family. I learned very quickly that I couldn't take all 3 kids with me and get anything done, so I put them on a rotation system. And I would take one at a time to an event. Usually it was short, an hour, and then they'd go back with their dad or babysitter. But on one particular occasion, there was an all-day event called Bring Your Kid to Work Day. And it was my son Huck's turn. He's my middle child. He was 4 at the time. If you name your kid Huck, you sort of set a certain expectation for him in life. And he lived up to it every minute of every day. Remember that patience I was talking about? Huck prepared me for that. So I was nervous about taking him, but I decided we wouldn't have that many opportunities, so I would take Huck with me, and we would spend that day together. And we had an awesome time. He had his little blazer and bow tie. I took about 8 million pictures. I thought we were making memories that would last a lifetime all day long. What I didn't realize is the most memorable part of the day would come at the very end. See all the kids gather in the Rose Garden at the White House, and the President of the United States comes out and takes a picture with the kids. We decided to do something a little different. We invited the press to bring their kids as well. So I go into the Oval Office and I remind the President, sir, 50% of the kids out there, their parents are reporters, so you might watch what you say. He naturally ignored my advice. But as I'm talking to the president, we notice that the bushes in the Rose Garden start to violently shake. We both think, well, that's odd. About the time I realize what's happening, this little blonde head jumps up from the bushes, runs full speed directly at the glass of the Oval Office, and pushes his face completely against the glass. I don't know if you've seen a 4-year-old face smashed up against glass, but it is a sight to behold. The president jumps back, oh my gosh, there's a little boy looking into the Oval Office. I said, yes, sir, that's my son, Huck. And he looked at me and he said, well, Sarah, at least he's handsome. Not to let that be his only mark on the day, we walk out of that office, the president steps onto that famous colonnade in the Rose Garden, the cameras are going crazy, the kids are all cheering, and here comes that same 4-year-old boy, this time running directly at the President of the United States. The president, being the gracious person he is, kind of steps down and crouches, ready to accept Huck into his arms, and right before he got there, and just before Secret Service tackles him, Huck sidesteps the president. This is Donald Trump we're talking about. Ignores the president, goes around him, and runs and jumps into my arms. The president turns around and looks at me like, are you kidding this kid again? But I knew in that moment I hadn't done everything wrong. I hadn't completely messed him up. Because for every kid out there, the President of the United States was the most important person there. But for my 4-year-old son, all he wanted to see was his mom, so I was actually pretty proud of him. I used to always joke with the press corps. They didn't think I was very funny. I just thought they needed a sense of humor. They would constantly ask me about the chaos going on in the White House. And I would tell them if they wanted to see chaos, they should come to my house. That was nothing. I think I was one of the few people that came to the White House to get a break. But in all seriousness, to me, it's very simple. If we do want to see chaos in the White House, if we want to see chaos in Washington, and if we want to see chaos in state government here in Missouri, it's very simple. We vote for Democrats and we allow the liberal mob to take over our country, take over our communities, and destroy the things that we love. But we're not going to do that. A vote for Nicole Galloway is a vote for chaos. And I know that's not what we want here. We've got to support people like Governor Mike Parson. It's the reason I'm here today. We've got to support people like Congresswoman Ann Wagner, because they are the only things standing between the liberal mob and you. If we want to continue down the path of safety and security and law and order and prosperity, we have a choice. Never in our life have we had a more important choice to make in an election. Our very way of life, our country, our values are all on the line. And the country's counting on you to make sure that we deliver. Like I said, I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. And it's why I'm spending every single day leading up to the election making sure we get good people elected. Because if we don't, my kids' future is what's at stake. And I refuse to let that happen. One of the best parts about working in the White House was getting to serve alongside the men and women of our armed forces. They represent the very best of this country. Do we have any veterans out here today? Thank you. Thank you for your service. These are the people that are willing to put everything on the line, sometimes making the ultimate sacrifice so that we get to live free in the greatest country on the face of the planet. We owe it to them to do our part to join them in fighting for freedom. And in the next couple days, we have an opportunity to do that by voting, by making sure everybody we know votes too. I used to say make sure you get all your friends out to vote, but now I don't even care if they're your friends, just make sure you get everybody you know out to vote. One of the moments in that time of working in the White House alongside the men and women of our military on Christmas of December 2018, I had the opportunity to travel with the President on a secret trip to Iraq. We left late at night, took off in complete and total darkness. Just before we touched down in Iraq, we had a security team come over and brief us. And they told us if we heard a certain sound that we needed to take cover because we were under attack. We were only going to be on the ground a couple of hours, but we knew in that moment the seriousness of what we were doing. We were spending one holiday away from our family, and it was difficult. Imagine spending every holiday, every birthday, every moment away from your family. That's what they do. And they do that so that we can be here, so that we can gather at events like this, so that we can live free. We stepped off of that airplane. We went into a dining hall where hundreds of troops had gathered. They thought they were having dinner with senior military leadership. What they didn't know was that President Trump and the First Lady would be coming into that dining hall. And when they did, that room erupted in enthusiasm and cheers unlike anything I've ever heard. They weren't cheering as Democrats or Republicans, rich or poor, black or white. Every demographic you can imagine was represented in that room. But they were cheering because we were Americans, because we are the greatest country. And they were there fighting to make sure we get to keep that and remain the greatest country. As the President made his way working around to each of those tables, thanking those individual troops, one of the young soldiers yelled out from the back, "Mr. President, I re-enlisted in the military because of you." And the President said, "And son, I'm here because of you." What a remarkable moment and sign of how this president appreciates who those men and women are. As they continued making their way around the table, that young man came over to me and he said, "Sarah, you have a tough job." And I'm thinking, are you kidding? I take questions. You take bombs and bullets. I said, "Actually, sir, you have a tough job." And in a moment that I will cherish for the rest of my life, he reached up and tore the patch from his shoulder. He placed it into my hand. He said, "Sarah, we're in this together." That is who America is. That is the America that we love. That is the America that we're fighting for. Let's fight to keep it that way. You have a governor that's willing to fight. He's put his name on the ballot so you don't have to. It's not easy to run for office. I know, I've seen it firsthand my whole life. It's hard. It's hard work. But you have somebody that's willing to do it, to make that sacrifice because he believes in his state, he believes in this country, and he's willing to stand up and fight for it. And he needs you to fight with him. We're not all called to be on the battlefield, but we are all called to be part of the battle. I hope that you will join me in making sure that Governor Mike Parson gets reelected on Tuesday, that President Donald Trump gets reelected on Tuesday, Congresswoman Ann Wagner gets reelected on Tuesday. Thank you so much for letting me be here. Thank you for serving. Thank you for fighting. Let's make sure we go out and we win this thing. Let's keep America great. Thank you so much. God bless you. Please welcome my good friend, your incredible governor, and a leader that we're all going to stand with on Tuesday, Governor Mike Parson.
Is that where we all come from? Man, good morning. What a great crowd here this morning. What some incredible speakers you've had in front of me this morning. How about Sarah Huckabee-Sanders? How about that? I want to tell you another special guest was here that don't get to be introduced, but I want to recognize him because he's become a good friend with me and Sarah. But Sarah's husband is with her today. Brian is back here. Brian, say hello. How about Ann Wagner? We gonna get her across the finish line? Yes, we are. Before I get started today, I've got to deliver a message to you that I promised months ago that I would deliver to you, right here in St. Charles. There's a guy called me up on the phone. He said, "Mike, I need you to help me. I need you to be my voice in Missouri. I'm not going to be able to come there very much, but I need you to make sure the people of Missouri knows how much I love them, how much I respect them, and how much they have helped me during my time as President of the United States." And he said he wanted to make sure you knew that how much he appreciated his state. But I've got to ask you, and I told him I would ask you, do you support the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump? Now we're going to show him a video of this, so let me just go again, make sure we got it right. Do you support the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump? So do I. I tell you what, it's just, I go over the state of Missouri, and I'm telling you, Tuesday night is going to be a good night for Republicans. I'm telling you. It will be red. It will be red all the way from the national to the state and the local levels. It's coming. It's coming. And it will be the big red wave is what it's going to be. For most of you here today, you know a little bit about the circumstances, how I become governor, all the things we've been through, from floods, from droughts, to all the things that have occurred, to a virus. But I do want you to tell you where I came from. I think it's always important we all know, which we as individuals, we as people, where we came from and why we're here today. Because I want to share this with you. When I graduated from a little town of 356 people, nobody wrote in my yearbook that you'd be the next governor of the state of Missouri. I'm just telling you, that didn't happen. But I grew up in a little town of 356 people. My mom and dad were simple farmers. Built cows, hogs, chickens, and a big garden. They taught me what it meant to respect other people. They taught me what it meant to be a good neighbor. They taught me how to work hard. They taught me how important it was to sit in the church pew. That's how I grew up. At 19 years old, I was in the United States Army. 2 tours of duty overseas. I would not be in front of you today if I had not served my country. I will tell you that right now. When I come back home with public service on my heart, because I believed it was important to serve this country, to stand up for freedom. Because this election is just about that. You've heard a lot of things on TV the last several months, all kinds of issues, all kinds of politicians saying things about one another, but just shut it off for just a second. Forget the media for a second. This election's about 2 things. It's about, do you want to go down the road of socialism, or do you want freedom? I want freedom, and that's why I'm on this stage today, and I'm willing to fight for it. When I come back home to be sheriff, it was one of the most important elections I ever had. Because the people back home voted for me to protect them. The people I went to church with, the people I went to school with, the people my kids grew up with, and it was one of the highest honors I ever had, being that. My opponent, on the other hand, you've heard some of the other speakers, one of the first persons she endorsed was Cori Bush. And what did Cori Bush want to do? Defund the police. I wore that badge for 22 years. And I thank the men and women that go out there every day to do a job we don't want to do. I wear a bracelet, and I have ever since Officer Bohannon lost his life, not too far down the road from you. I've been to too many hospitals, talking to too many mom and dads, too many wives, too many brothers and sisters. I've been to too many visitations, and I've been to too many funerals of our law enforcement men and women that serve us. I was in Springfield a couple of weeks ago, visiting with a young man and his wife that was paralyzed because he was doing his job, because some thug, some criminal, trapped him underneath a car. I tell you what, I will never turn my back on the men and women of armed forces. I will never turn my back on the men and women that wear the uniform. They are the difference between good and evil, and I will be on the side of good. There's a couple other issues that me and my opponent differ on quite a bit. A year ago, my family had the blessing to be able to adopt a newborn. She's now, little Sophie's a little over a year old right now. And every time I hold her, I feel her little heart. And I feel how precious she is. And I honestly also realize how she could have been a statistic. I will tell you this. I will fight day and night, whatever hours are in the day, to protect the people that cannot protect themselves. And that is the unborn. You've got a lot of good legislators here today that are back here, and I've talked to them, I met. And here's where I want to give you credit. I know the legislatures, and I know I get credit for signing a lot of bills, introducing a lot of bills. I know you got Nick Schroeder here today. But let me tell you what changes the landscape. When you send Christian legislatures, when you send pro-life legislators, when you send people with moral values, that's when you change things. But let me tell you what you changed, all of you out here today. When I first went to Jeff City, there was 20,000 abortions in the state of Missouri. Now you just let that soak in for a minute. 20,000 little Sophies out there that didn't get a chance. Let me tell you why that is so important, because you put the right people into place. Because you put those legislators in place, Today there is less than 50 abortions in the state of Missouri. And we're not done yet with that. My opponent, on the other hand, as you heard, celebrates abortion on Sunday mornings at 11 o'clock. And if you want to celebrate with her, you get a free cocktail. That's not Missouri values. There's another value that's very dear to me that I'm so proud of, and I've had it for many years, and I am a lifetime member with the highest rating of the NRA. My opponent has the lowest rating. Now, when I went to school in that little town, when we got an F, that wasn't good. That's her rating on that. And I'll tell you what, as governor of the state of Missouri, when the bureaucracy and government tries to attack you for protecting your home and your Second Amendment rights like they did to McCloskey's, I will do everything in my powers to stick up for you and make sure you are never going to jail for protecting your Second Amendment. The last 8 months have been the hardest time in my career, the last 8 or 9 months, I'll tell you, dealing with a virus that nobody knew what to do. There's no playbook for it. There's no experts that can tell you what to do. You can't Google it. You had to make decisions every day. And I thought, how am I going to make these decisions for all you people in here? And how do I put you at the forefront? The only way I could do that was, one, with my Christian values, and I realized I wasn't in control, somebody else was. And two, I had to remember freedom at all costs. So when people come up to me and said, Governor, you got to mandate everybody in the state of Missouri wear a mask. You got to do it. I said, I'm not going to do it. You have to make the decisions what's best for you. And let me tell you why that's so important, why it is so important that government does not overreach. No governor should do that. You heard what my opponent said. She'd do it in a heartbeat. She would take it away from you. But that's your freedom. But 90 days, there's going to be a vaccine. It's going to come. Sooner or later, it's coming. Do you want the governor of the state of Missouri to mandate every man, woman, and child take a vaccine? As long as I'm governor, that will never happen in the state of Missouri. I told you in the beginning this election's about freedom or it's about socialism. I don't need any more titles in my career. I've been a sergeant, I've been a sheriff, I've been a business owner. I've done all the things. Me and Teresa have been so blessed to have the family we've had and enjoy the American dream. We truly have. I don't need it. Every day I go to work. Every day I go to work for this state. It's for all of you that are in this arena tonight. I go to work to try to preserve what I was fortunate enough to live with, and I want to make sure that the right person behind that desk is putting freedom before all else. That's what I do every day. But let me tell you where I learned that, and why this election to me is so important, and why you're so important in this election. When I was a kid in that little town growing up, there was 2 flags that flew, one over the post office, one over the school. The flag of the United States of America. I said the Pledge of Allegiance every morning in school as I went to school, like many of you here did today. But I'll be honest with you, I did not realize the importance of the flag of the United States of America or the Pledge of Allegiance till I served my country in the United States Army. And what I realized at 19 years old, it wasn't about me wearing the uniform. It was about all the people that wore it before me, all the wars, all the conflicts, so that people would pass down freedom, that would be pass it down to us today. That's what it's important. And I will tell every one of you that are here today, the only reason you're here is because what your mom and dads did, what your grandparents did. And I'll take it all the way back to our forefathers, when they did things like the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. That has been passed down for over 200 and freedom. It is our time on November the 3rd to protect the American dream. God bless you, God bless Missouri, and God bless the United States of America.